Good morning, ladies and gentlemen and non-binaries. This is Oliver. I'm in a bunker I like to call Studio 72 in the People's Republic of Portland, Oregon. Lovely neighborhood of Arleta, southeast Portland. And I want to do a little bit of Wednesday morning quarterbacking. Wednesday morning quarterbacking. Kind of like Monday morning quarterbacking when after the Sunday football games. But this is Wednesday morning right after the elections. And I want to show you this. I don't know if you can see that. This is a piece of rainbow obsidian. Rainbow obsidian in the shape of a heart. I love this. This was a gift from the great grandmaster, grandma herself. But this is symbolic because it's rainbow obsidian, but it's pitch black. It's pitch black, right? This is called rainbow obsidian. Every color of light at the right reflection will come out. What looks to be a black heart is actually full of rainbow and light. And that's exactly what this election was. That's exactly what this election was. We had a red tsunami. I don't care about all these little blue check marks in the blue mirage. What we're witnessing right now is a blue mirage where they're telling you one thing, they're gaslighting you on one direction, when the truth of the matter is the opposite. It's a pivot. So I think it's important to kind of analyze. We all seem to have different perspectives on what a wave is, a red wave or a red tsunami. How many tsunamis have you seen in the Midwest without an ocean? Really? Have you seen a bunch of those? Really? Got some beachfront property in Arizona I'd like to sell you? Yeah? Yeah? Waves crash where there's no ocean? Yeah? Yeah? Oh, okay. That sounds pretty good, Larry. That's called gaslighting, all right? When you tell people that there's a wave crashing where there's no ocean, that's gaslighting. That's what Democrats are doing, and that's what they've done. You've got to have an ocean. From the Gulf, Florida, huge tsunami in Florida. Are you paying attention? Huge red tsunami in Florida. East Coast, New York, huge red wave. Didn't squeak past Hochul. What does that say about all those fentanyl voters in New York worried about their supply line drying up? What does that say about the voters in New York worried about going to detox and rehab with Mr. Zeldin? Huh? No, you all get to stay high and do your crimes. You can stick with Governor Hochul. And that's what it looks like you guys did. But so first I want to do a little bit of local, a little bit of state. We had a red tsunami. We had a red wave here in Oregon. It doesn't mean that we completely swept the boards. We didn't have some 2010 retaking 60 seats of the House. No, nobody said anywhere at any time that a red wave or red tsunami was going to put us in 2010 Tea Party revolution. Some of you may not even have been old enough to remember, right? But the 2010 Tea Party that installed Newt Gingrich with his contract with America, right? What the contract was is you better do what we say or it's pop, pop, pop. Nah, it wasn't that bad. Pretty close. But that type of sweeping and shellacking, Obama called it, I've been shellacked. Ugh. No, the shellacking was, Obama, that you had power for 2 years and did nothing. Nada. Zilch. You had the House, you had the Senate, and you had the White House, Obama, and you did nothing. You took a knee and you sent trillions to your banker friends at Goldman Sachs that now occupied the Obama administration, which are now in the Biden administration, which is really Obama 3.0. This is Barry Soetoro's third term, okay? By the way, I didn't skip Trump. Trump had Goldman Sachs mofos in there too. He also had a bunch of Pfizer fucks, right? That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. We're not talking about Trump necessarily so far, but let me tell you something here with before I start cracking. I want to talk about the successes here locally. Some things that happened here in Multnomah County, things that happened here in Portland, things that happened here in the state of Oregon. Huge, huge upset with Christine Drazan. 44.65%, Tina Kotek, 45.69%. We're talking about less than 1 point or 1 point. That's 48.67%. 49% of the ballots are counted, and that's 1,458,789 ballots. Active registered voters is almost 3 million people. Almost 3 million voters here in the state of Oregon. 2,997,548. So we had half of the state of Oregon didn't even bother to fill out a ballot for the future of Oregon, for the future of their counties, for the future of the country. Didn't even vote. That's huge. That's huge. Anything's going to check red waves, red tsunamis, or political pivotal changes. What we had last night was a 7-point earthquake, figuratively speaking, politically. Politically, we had a 7-point. Where do tsunamis come from? Tsunamis don't just pop up and go, surprise! No, tsunamis come from an earthquake, tremor, geomagnetic shock, action, plates slipping, huge political paradigm shifts. That's what happened in the hearts and minds last night, and still happening. I had the one of the wealthy New York elite liberals that I follow. Good guy, him and his wife, good guys, but good people. But he started chiming in last night. He was like, "Oh, voting's we're gonna get shellacked," or didn't say shellacked. What did he say? I don't know exactly what he said, but he was talking poo-poo and voting, talking about how it's rigged and this and that, and he's not excited about anything, and we're gonna see. So he pops in this morning. He's like, "See what I tell you? What I tell you? Huh? What kind of self-defeatists are you, New Yorkers? What kind of self-defeating bullshit is that? You're gonna come in before the ballots are counted. Instead of telling people to go out and vote, you're going to tell them the game's rigged, it's all fucked, you're fucked, we're all going to hell." That kind of self-defeatist has got to stop. Number one, stop telling people not to vote. What did we get? 1 million people? Over a million, almost 1.5 million people in Oregon never cast a ballot. And Christine Drazan stopped the runaway freight train. Tina was so far behind, she had to bring in Obama. She had to bring in Elizabeth Warren, which I think hurt her. I think hurt her more than it helped her with the independents. If you don't suck in the independents here in Oregon, I would argue across the country, you ain't done shit. You're done. You're speaking to the choir, and you're going to squeak by, and that's exactly what we're seeing is some squeakers here. Tina hasn't squeaked by. They're going to still count these ballots, and these ballots are going to trickle in from all over the state and be tallied, and I'm hoping, God, this is within reach. We're talking about less than 1 point. This is so historical that nobody national gives a flying fuck about us in Oregon, okay? We know that. This is so significant of a shift of what's happening in Oregon. It is really, it's the canary in the coal mine, if you will. It's an indicator species. This is the frogs. When the frogs die, there's something wrong with the entire ecosystem. You got to figure out what the problem is. That's the challenge for the Democrats. And Tina Kotek came in with Hillary Clinton. "I can't believe I'm not winning by 50 points. How could I not be winning by 50 points? That was her whole attitude. She was grinning and sneering. Every comment that she made was a mockery of right wing, which I fucking hate. A mockery of conservatives. A mockery of the voters. That this was her. She was entitled. She's done her time. She's put it in. Everyone in the state and the country, Democrats and globalists, tons of globalist money funneled into Tina. They all backed her because they thought the entitlement was a done deal. It was not a done deal. Drazen stopped them short. She's within 30,000 ballots? Less than 20,000 ballots. We're talking about 15,000 ballots out of a state with 4 million people, 3 million active registered voters, only 1.5, let's say 1.5, 1,500,000 cast a ballot. Unbelievable, stunning. Congrats. I was happy to help out with that campaign. I was happy to put these medical tyranny in check, because I'm telling you right now, folks, if you don't realize it, they've got another round of biological weapons coming. They've got another round of biolab leaks that are coming. Okay? Don't kid yourself. That was not some one-off, one-time corona hysteria. Oopsie daisy, came from a bat turd in Wuhan straight out of a bio fucking lab level 4. Thank you. We know that because the doctors have pulled apart and looked at the spike proteins, and they can see that it is not a chimera. It did not come from whatever they call that, with the animal and human combinations. It clearly has CRISPR type gene edits that put into it to create it as a bioweapon. You think that's all they got? You think that's all they got? If we don't have a strong governor, Republican, that fights for civil liberties, we got nothing. We're going to be rickrolled. We're going to be under the train wreck in Oregon and the country. But it's really up to the states. This is about the states taking control, if you missed that. I think a lot of people in Oregon are still very well asleep. But I am impressed of the number of voters that actually took the time to vote. You appeared to be red pill and waking up. You see through the lies. You see that the mass, the lockdowns, you see the damage that it's done to our children. This was a referendum on parental rights. This is what I like so much about Florida, and with Governor DeSantis coming in with his not only parental rights, but he actually passed a bill about fathers' rights. Father's bill. Nobody in the country talked about that because you got all these Democrat lunatics that are bashing men and calling men evil, all this man-hating, especially if you're a white male. But what do you think that does to the people of color men? What do you think that does to these guys psychologically? If you're going to say that the white guys are dirtbags, then you're sure in the hell are going to be coming for me. You sure in the hell are going to think I'm a piece of shit kicking me to the curb. The white guys are all pieces of shit. This is the psychological operations that is being done upon the populace. This is the psychological operation of the country, and it's intentional. It's social engineering. That's a whole other thing. Let me digress. I want to get back into briefly on Portland and Multnomah County. We passed ranked choice voting. It's not perfect. Ranked choice voting, instant runoff voting, IRV, but it's much better than what we have. We're not going to have long months of a runoff. It eliminates the runoff. It's an instant runoff in the GE. There's no more primary for the Multnomah County positions. We not unanimously, through a strong majority, passed that in Multnomah County. Here in the city of Portland, the charter passed. The controversial charter that created districts, that created 3 seats for each district and 4 districts. 12 seats instead of 4 seats. That's what just happened. That is the paradigm shift that happens. Now, you can say that's not a red tsunami, but in deep, dark blue Portland, that's a red tsunami, ladies and gentlemen. We have collectively come together. It doesn't have to be called red. That is a political tsunami for Portland. We have a large portion of Democrats that said F you to the establishment Democrats that were aligned with Kate Brown, aligned with Obama, aligned with Jeff Merkley, aligned with Wyden. Wyden, by the way, narrowly almost lost his ass to an unknown, Joe Perkins, which I like a lot. She's giving him a run for his money. He's coming out with over 50, 53, 54, 55%. That guy, Ron Wyden's been doing 70% most of his career because of gaslighting. Now, an unknown, almost chipped out Grandpa Wyden. That is a red wave. I don't care what, you want to call it a red ripple? I hear these Fox News commentators, red ripple. I heard Alex Jones saying, it's a stalemate. I would call this an official stalemate. And Michael Moore was right. Democrats did win. Democrats didn't win shit, boss. Hey, boss, Democrats didn't win shit. We took out Nancy Pelosi. Number one! Come on! Come on! If that's not a red tsunami, what the fuck is? This is a referendum on Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi. And, hey, listen, if people want to be gay, man, you got every right to be gay or whatever you want to do in private. I don't criticize her husband for being gay. I mean, God, if I was married to her, I'd probably be gay too. But that's not the criticism. Now, the criticism is that these gaslighters came in and tried to say somebody that Mr. Pelosi, Paul Pelosi, knew, called him David to a 911 call. They're standing in their underwear. Now, apparently, they both didn't have hammers. There was just one hammer. But they still are there, and he's there for an hour. They won't release the tapes, right? Speaker Pelosi won't release the tapes. Doesn't that sound familiar? She doesn't want to release all the tapes. It shows the evidence of January 6, 2021. She didn't want to show that. My God, that's evidence that's going to prove her ass is wrong. Now we've got an investigation. Nobody said that this red tsunami was going to be a 2010 Tea Party revolution where we install new. Okay? By the way, speaking of the speaker, Kevin McCarthy, this was a call out on a referendum on McCarthy. Where the fuck you been, brother? Where the fuck you been? Where's the vision that you should have been out there pitching? You want to be speaker because you're entitled to be speaker? I ain't gonna forget your ass holding a press conference where you've got the crazy Nazi lady, Sparks or Spartan from, what is she, a rep from Indiana? You've got her screaming, saying that Putin's killed more people than Stalin and Lenin. And all the rest of the bullshit she spewed at a press conference. That was you, McCarthy. You were holding her. You navigated that press conference to push people into Ukraine, World War III, and a nuclear holocaust. You think climate change is real? You know what the quickest climate change is? A nuclear holocaust, a nuclear winter. And we are this effing close with the Democrats and Biden. Unable to stand up to the military-industrial complex, unable to stand up, completely compromised by foreign state actors, including China. But China ain't the only one that's compromised Biden, Tad Ben. These globalists are playing for keeps, and they're killing people, millions of people. And they're gaslighting everyone in this country, both the Republicans and both the Democrats. And I am strongly encouraged in the Oregon voters that the percentage of you, 1.5 million, still saying F everybody. F the blue, F the red, F everybody. We're not voting. Now, we need to get them voting. Because that's the series of 7.8.9 point earthquakes that are going to hit Oregon. Politically. Although we are all white-knuckled for the big one. I'm not trying to trigger you there. You've had enough fear governing. And that's the other thing, is that the Democrats were able to effectively, through the traumatized and fear, they're governing by fear. The corona, a flu bug, a virus is going to kill you all. Dying, death, you're going to die unless you listen to us. Don't worry, Democrats are going to hold your hand and save you. Don't worry, government's going to send you a $400 check and everything will be fine. Wait, what? What? Total bullshit, total gaslighting. So one of the things that, do I want to shift into national? I want to, okay, let me finish up here locally. A huge referendum that happened was bouncing an anarcho-communist, Commissioner Hardesty. Commissioner Hardesty stood at the steps downtown with the anarchos, violent, sociopathic, arsonists, and rioters, stood at the steps of the Mark Hatfield Federal Courthouse and called it a revolution, encouraging them to attempt to blow up the federal courthouse, blow up federal agents, trying to screw plywood into the doors of police stations around Portland. We got all this on video. You mofos saying, oh, he's making shit up again. I don't make up anything anytime. Ever. I may speculate, but I say there's speculation. This is video evidence. Commissioner Hardesty stood with these people in 2020, calling it the new civil rights revolution. Deplorable. She's been put in check and she's bounced. Now, I'm not a huge fan that Renee Gonzalez is deep blue Democrat. I don't like that at all. But I'm going to give him a chance in that seat to show that he's nonpartisan. But he bounced a little Nazi guy from Ukraine who was in a three-way with them. Props, Renee. I mean, that was actually bigger. Blocking him was actually bigger than taking out Commissioner Hardesty. But you took out the first historical African-American commissioner because of her own words. It wasn't as much of what you did, although you ran a pretty good campaign. It was what she didn't do. She didn't even have a picture in the voters pamphlet. She was attacking the neighborhood associations, calling us racist, calling us homophobic. I marched in the Gay Pride Parade with Commissioner Hardesty with my daughter in 2018. We got you there. Okay? We got you there. Don't call us homophobic. Don't. You want to come groveling to the neighborhood associations that you've called them all white supremacists and now you want their votes? There's something not right. I don't know if she got the clot shots. She's stroked out. I don't know. But I recognize a part of her face was drooping, and a part of her in one of the interviews, I think it was KGW, she did not even sound right. It was probably lorazepam or Xanax, or she's possibly stroked out. That's not the same woman that I knew at KBOO 20 years ago. Point blank. She's out. That's a tsunami for Portland. That's a tsunami for Oregon. Huge. So the one that's closer, and it's just like I was having anxieties about, is the great big gun grab to create a register 114, Major 114. It's at 50-50. Just like everything right now in the state of Oregon, we are polarized at 50-50. Eastern Oregon is voting to go join Idaho. Succession. This is second or third round that they voted to succeed. Joining Idaho. If that's not a civil war, what the fuck is, gang? Let's open up our eyes. We need to acknowledge the conservatives. We need to acknowledge the Republicans in Oregon. We need to acknowledge the independents that lean conservative in Oregon. There's millions. 1.5 million didn't even come out and vote. They're so pissed off at the Democrats. They think that it's so rigged and BS here in Oregon. They didn't even bother to get their ballot turned in. That's sad. That's a sad state of affairs. We'll see that template and formula across the entire country. So we have major restructuring of Portland. Now, just a heads up, I'm not encouraging this, but the city council, as it is now, before we rearrange the Titanic deck chairs with this new formula, which is really proportional representation. When you have 3 seats, and they all need to be in for every district, 3 seats, 4 times, 12 members, that's proportional representation. That means you use ranked choice voting where it's top 1, top 2, and top 3. And they get seated. Never been done before in the country. It's probably done in some countries with proportional representation, like Italy, and I'd have to look around. I honestly am not a scholar on all that. But it's huge voting method. We are going to blaze and set an example across the country and the world. And I love that. I love that. I love how Oregon, we are the true pioneers of this country. We are the true pioneers of what is happening with election reform, voting methods reform, and the political tsunamis. And we just had a 7, and I think there's an 8 point coming. And I even concerned that it could be a 9 point coming here for Oregon with a political wave if things are not changed. So through the fear in governing, Tina repeated over and over and over again that we were all going to come and take and strip away women's right termination of pregnancy. Total gaslighting bullshit. The power is in the hands of the states. Oregon state voters are not going to flip the termination of pregnancy rights. I don't even think they're going to limit it. There's a whole nother argument there, but that gaslighting is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing some of the talking heads talk about it. That really brought out the younger female voters, the student female voters. They were successfully brainwashed through fear and gaslighting to think that Republicans were going to be able to do that. And people like Senator Lindsey Graham coming out, what do you think? Lindsey Graham is such a bumbling, stupid fool that he didn't see the polarization and the charging of the abortion issue after the leak out of the Supreme Court, after the Supreme Court kicks it back out of a federal mandate, federal perspective, and kicks it back to the state rights. Senator Lindsey Graham doesn't know that introducing a bill, a controversial trigger point bill to scare female voters, telling them that he wants to restrict abortions of all kinds across the border, across the spectrum, full spectrum denial, restriction of those rights. That's what Lindsey Graham did. That's what Lindsey Graham, that kind of Lindsey Graham ass clowns is exactly why we didn't see bigger movement on the Senate level. You have to hold McCarthy accountable. You really dropped the ball. You don't deserve to be speaker. Jim Jordan would be a much better speaker. And I know, I can tell Jim Jordan's nervous. Because just seeing him in interviews, he looks nervous when it comes to talking about speaker and talking about the direction. It's a major, we got globalists in the Republican Party, the Mitt Romneys, the Lindsey Grahams, all these neocon warmongers that have told America that number one priority is make Ukraine great again. We don't care about you, even though we're been elected to represent USA. We don't care about you guys in the streets, the voters. We're going to send billions and billions and billions of dollars, and then we're going to complain like whiny little bitches that Biden and the Democrats have spent too much money trying to take care of the people that are on the brink or in the streets homeless. They've lost their jobs, lost their trucks, lost their wife, lost their homes. It's like a bad country western song. That's what not the corona and the flu did, but the policies. The policies destroyed Americans' lives. We've never recovered, and it's going to get worse next year and the year after that. There will be ripples and shockwave ramifications of what they did. The Republican elitists, like McCarthy, like Graham, like a whole bunch of these other fucks, are sending out the messaging that we don't care about the people. Now, there's a huge chunk of the Republican Party that is doing the right thing. And we saw those victories. We saw them connect. Very important. I think Trump's an asset. People are saying that he's a liability. No. It's not a referendum on Trump. You had Oz, who was not popular with patriots at all. And to be quite honest, it might even be better. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Fetterman's wife came in. She's kind of a good-looking lady. People are like, what? She's not good-looking. I would call that a good-looking woman. But when she says things like swimming is racist, you're shooting yourself and your highly manicured $100 pedicure. You're shooting your pedicure toes right off, little lady. Swimming's not racist. You can open up your Governors Mansion swimming pool and pretend like you're going to teach people to swim. But use your head. You sounded much smarter in the 60 Minutes. I even called you smart at one point. And then you come out and start talking about swimming is racist. You stupid fucks. Snap the fuck out of it. But she'll probably take over. And there's some sort of legal law that spouses through someone's disabled. Clearly Fetterman's disabled. What does that race say in Pennsylvania? What does that say that people are going to elect Fetterman, who took the clot shot, by the way, days after or a week after, stroked out. We've seen that a whole lot across this country. We've seen millions of it across the world. Okay? Stroked out. And can't even complete sentences. Start off a debate. Good night, everybody. Good night. Oh, okay. Good night. Unbelievable. But what does that say of the Pennsylvania tribalism? What does that say of the division and the political polarization? Right? I can kind of understand the Patriots saying Oz was built by Oprah. Who did Oprah back? I mean, either way, Oprah wins. Her candidate wins. Dr. Oz, who she built, right? You could pretend like they're not friends. Oh my God. Oz goes, I love Oprah, but we just don't see the same way on politics after she endorsed Fetterman, the stumbling trust fund kid, right? So, my God. But the tribalism, if that's what the people of Pennsylvania, we got to do a real reality check and analysis on the people of Pennsylvania. If everything that came out true there. Now, we obviously don't like the election conspiracy denier, whatever, all this bullshit. Everyone does it on both sides. Shut the fuck up when you're pointing it at one team and the other team's having to play defense. You both do it. All sides do it. But I can't look past the fact that these Dominion voting machines were not working in key swing states for hours. I saw lines where people probably gave up and decided not to vote because one machine that was working in there to count the ballots or cast a ballot was too slow. We saw that in Arizona. It ain't over in Arizona, folks. This is a blue Mirage. This is like we recently saw Mars. Mars is very symbolic. It went retrograde, which means it looks like it's going backwards. But before it did that, for this last month, Mars has been going this weird little wobble where it looks like it's not even doing its orbit. It looks like it's stationary. Clicks this way 1 or 2 degree, went into whatever it was, after Gemini, Taurus, whatever, and then it went back into Gemini. And then went at this weird little wobble where it's like stationary, stagnant, kind of like the crowd in South Korea. God bless those souls. I still think there's something fishy. I thought there was some sort of gas thing, and then it turned out there was a gas incident in LA. I might have been picking up on the gas crisis with that LA airport. There was some sort of gas situation down there. But my gut told me that there was some sort of gas, something involved that was not organic in South Korea. But if you saw the videos, if you could stomach watching the videos of those people being squished to death, hundreds and hundreds of them squished literally to death. Not stampeded like a running of the bulls, similar but not bulls, no bulls involved, just people. Just people. And they go this way, and then they're like, that's exactly what Mars has done. That crowd mimicked, that movement mimicked exactly what Mars has done. And so I had a point there. I got off on the Mars thing and I lost my stream. I was going to make a point about that really is symbolic of what we're seeing. Down in Arizona where it's this, the blue, I know what it was. It was the blue. We took pictures, I've been out there snapping pictures of Mars with my satellite. They've taken some really good pictures of Mars. The top of Mars was blue. Like gas, like a cloud almost. And I think a part of that is because it really hasn't been in moving. It's been like stagnant. Possibly some of the cold air or the water vapor from the frozen deep ice that could be on Mars. They tell us it is. Tell us that it was. Tell us it probably is. So we got this blue Mirage, this bright red planet, just like the bright red blood moon. That, I think, was misinterpreted by some people as to mean it was a negative omen or something like that. Now, omens can be omens. I'd never heard, Tim Pool called it an omen. I think he might have been right. He jumped in on that, on the whole red wave and the blood moon and the significance of it, which is kind of out of character for him. He doesn't like pseudoscience. He hates conspiracies. But he did bring it up. And I think it's misinterpreted that The blood moon is not that the apocalypse is happening now or going to happen tomorrow. It's symbolic of what the future holds if we don't make changes. If we don't make the changes, we're in implosion. It is potential apocalyptic, life-ending, generation, multi-species ending scenario through nuclear war. Through nuclear war. And the Republicans really dropped the ball on that. McCarthy especially, as he brought up that little Nazi representative, Sparks or Spartan, and she's like, oh God, no, he's killed more than Stalin and Lenin. It's like, oh yeah, let's send him money. This is how it all started. McCarthy on stage doing his little ding-dong speech, who's historical and screaming and crying. That's McCarthy. That's not a leader. That's an elite captured by the military-industrial complex. That is what is creating and imploding the Republican Party. You guys missed an opportunity, just like Fox News and all the rest of these so-called conservatives. You all started pushing and chiming, let's go kill Putin. Let's go to war. Without any deep thinking for peace or diplomacy, without any deep thinking, you immediately snapped and started goose step marching to your military-industrial complex owners. That's where you fucked up. You had the chance to reach that 40% of the independents by saying, give peace a chance. We don't want war. And I've noticed here at the end, that this last couple of weeks, you sort of started promoting that because the people are now changing. The Democrat people have turned on the squad. Some of the Democrat and the independents have turned on that agenda. They see that it's a racket, they see that it's fraud, and they see that nuclear war is within days, unless change happens. We're going to look like Mars. You seen Mars? Get on NASA.gov and take a look at Mars. Mars doesn't look good. No, Mars doesn't look good to live on. Mars wouldn't be real good for you. Okay? At least right now. So it might have been at one point, who knows? Anyway, so where am I at as far as I'm going way too long-winded. I wanted to do a short one, and when you're doing political analysis, it's like there's just no short one. So the universal ballots. This is one thing that I want to hit on here. This was another thing that Tim Pool brought up, was that universal mail-in ballots is the devil. It's the bad. That's what's wrong with everything. That's not what's wrong with everything. Nothing could be farther from the truth. What we do here in Oregon is that we have barcodes. The barcodes is who you are, where you've been voting, how long you've been here. Everything about you is in a file and a record here. That weeds through fake ballots. There's also signature verified. So whatever signature you do, you've got to sign it that way on your ballot, or it's going to get tossed too. So I don't know if they do random sampling on the signature verifies. There's something to that, but we have a signature verify. We have barcodes. We have tracking. You need photo ID to get an absentee ballot or to just walk in and vote. You got to have ID. And that's one of the things that Oregonians, we rallied together. Dems, Republicans, Independents, Constitutionalists. I was going to say Greens, but there's a couple of Greens that are notable and have integrity right now. There used to be a lot of us. Used to be several thousand of us. But we came together but to say, if you're not legit Oregonian, you can't vote. And that is exactly the message that needs to happen across the country. We respect you, your work visa, and your right to pursue a new life in America. We need the work help. Quite frankly, we need the labor help. I mean, we've got people dropping sick. We got young people dropping dead on courts, soccer fields. We got young people that myocarditis that never had any myocarditis. That's the labor force, is now sick. What happened? How'd they get sick? How'd all these diseases start fucking up all the young, healthy people? Oh, what was that? What's been going on? So, we need labor. We need help. We need some new people from around the world coming in, but they need to be screened. They need to be vetted. And you're not going to vote and pick the tyrants that are going to rule us unless you're legit, you've got your ID, and you've been here, and you've gone through the paperwork. That's very important, because we're going to see things like in Arizona, where, by the way, a Secretary of State that oversees all the elections is now trying to run for governor and is now supervising the ballots that are to elect her. Think about that for a second, folks. In Arizona, just the optics. The optics. Then you've got hundreds of machines in Arizona's that no longer work. No, they're all stalled out. They're broke. Yeah, Pennsylvania machines, they're broke. New Jersey machines, Dominion, they're broke. Dominion needs to be broken into 1,000 pieces and cast into the wind. F Dominion. And you know what those Democrats, those captured elite Democrats, with their so-called voting election, their voter rights bill, it codified Dominion. It codified Dominion. It put Dominion into constitutional law on a national format if the machines were made in America. It doesn't matter if they're made in America or made in Venezuela, because the software is hackable. It's breakable. We've seen that happen. Also, the printers. We had not there. I actually read a story here in Clackamas County that there was something with a little bit of blurry barcoding somewhere. I think I've heard that somewhere else. I'll have to double check on that across the country. In the primary, here in Oregon, here in Portland, Clackamas County, got Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County, Tri-County, 3 counties make up Portland. Clackamas County, there was blurred barcode for the primary several months ago. It delayed the voting by weeks, kept people in limbo. So that's exactly what you don't want to do. That is chips away at voter confidence. It creates the illusion or optics of fraud in the works, which is exactly what people are saying of Arizona. It's exactly what people said in 2020. They're now saying it again because it looks very suspicious. Voting machines are breaking in the swing states. That's a remarkable coincidence, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it is. It's kind of like a tidal wave coming into Oklahoma or the Midwest where there ain't any ocean. How does that work? How does a red tsunami work when there's no ocean? So, universal voting, it's an asset, not a liability. Stop telling people that universal voting and these mail-in ballots are the problem. They should have a barcode. If they don't have a barcode, they are a problem. Okay? Let's just stop saying it's a problem. Let's say barcodes, no problem. Photo ID, no problem. That's something that we can all agree on. It's just we got to keep repeating that to get the people on board. So, ballot harvesting, I've got issues with it. They do it here in Oregon. Some states it's illegal. Nobody should be putting their hands on another person's ballot. Nobody should be helping other people who are having trouble writing their names fill out their ballots and coaching them through. We got Democrats that go out and do that. Union members go out. They got a union list. They go out and get the elderly union members from the past and they fill out their ballots with them, for them, and then take their ballots in and drop it off. Very sus. We saw problems with that in 2020. Low information voters, the gaslighting, So Trump and DeSantis, well, I wanted to say that one thing about Tina, but Trump and DeSantis, 2020, reconcile, apologize, admit there's error. Okay, what did I mean by that? So, the one thing about DeSantis is he's getting a lot of traction and a lot of attention right now because he's done some great things in Florida on the domestic level. There's some shady things about DeSantis. And one of the key things is he's really a war hawk when it comes to World War. I don't want that. That's something that Trump is beating him over the head with a club on if those guys are going to square up. They're not going to square up. They're not going to square up. I think that's all show. It looks like stagecraft to me. In fact, they had discussions months ago that they were not going to run. Ron said, "I'm not running if he's running." They're not. It's not going to be like that. But it might also mean that Ron says, "I don't want to be VP. I'm going to run for the big dog in 2024." It might be. I don't know, but I just don't see it happening like that. Ron sucks donkey balls when it comes to foreign policy. He's a war hawk. He's a neocon. There's a whole bunch of casino cash, and I believe Ukraine oligarch cash. Lots of Slavic money in Florida. I mean, lots of Slavic money in Florida. Just like I thought a year ago, we may see the Ukrainian oligarchs align behind DeSantis and the more Russian-leaning oligarchs aligning and funding Trump. That may be happening. I don't know. Like I said, there could just be stagecraft, but there may be a little bit of a Slavic mob war in Florida. In fact, I know that those two differing opinions are there. And so it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. So, I'm not a big fan of DeSantis because of the foreign policy. What he did domestic for the fathers needs more attention, and we need that in Oregon. We need that in states across the country. We're not going to have these corrupted, elite captured teachers unions come in and tell us what they can do with our children and then not even notify the parents of what the hell they're brainwashing or doing in the schools. F you, teacher unions. And that part of parental rights revolution is what Youngkin in, and that's what could have backed Tudor Dixon. I think she tried a little bit of pivoting at the end. Might have been too late for that, but I still question Michigan. I question that big. Now, briefly with Tina. Tina gave a little concession speech. KGW had Tina saying, "Well, it's not over yet, but that's okay. I'm feeling good." And then they went to Drazen, and I think she was finished her loop. She went down Klamath, Eugene, and I think she finished in Canby, which is her home turf. Gave an amazing speech. Amazing speech. She's actually a more dynamic woman than I even realized. I mean, I was kind of enamored on how she looked and her demeanor and the fact that she had kids. She's an alpha female, conservative. I like all of that. I like all of that in politics. Who doesn't like that outside of politics? Well, some of you may not like that. I like that. But hearing her speak, I don't know who wrote that speech. I don't know if that was her. It kind of felt like it came from her heart. So she was there. Maybe her BFF that introduced her last night. But that was powerful. That was powerful. And she's got this. She's got this. 44.65 to 45.69. And they're still counting ballots. I think there's another 100,000 ballots. So 15,000 ballots separating them. That is the true red tsunami on the Oregon coast crashing in as Christine Drazen surfs the red wave all the way out to Coos Bay. So one of the things that Tina said, she says, youth are our future. So Tina was able to, because of the gaslighting of the youth who think that they've only got a couple of years left, they've been told that Earth and life ends in just a couple of years through the brainwashing, total brainwashing. All of the data from NASA.gov, all of the data for 40 years is that 0.1 or 0.2, not 1 degrees, 0.1 degrees, 0.2 degrees in 40 years is the difference in global warming. All of that, Al Gore, was total horseshit. For 40 years, we've debunked that son of a bitch. It's crap. Now, there's other issues that are in play, but it has nothing to do with global warming. It has nothing to do with gas, the emissions on cars. It has a lot to do with bunker fuel in the cargo ships. And you can see them like spider webs on satellites. You look in on the satellites, you look in on the sulfuric acid, look in the carbon dioxide, you'll see these tracks. You'll see the tracks from the shipping lanes that are darker and stronger than any airplane track, any cloud cover. You can see it's like a spider web. That is what's killing people. Millions of people are dying every year because of that. And that says it on the, look under bunker fuel, under Wikipedia. Look at, what is it? They have another name for it. Check out bunker fuel. It'll be under bunker fuel. It's the cargo ships. But she said, youth are our future. Youth are our future. Here she's been shitting on the youth, traumatized these Democrat policies that she backed and supported with her best friend forever, Governor Kate Brown, being controlled by the teachers union and Big Pharma. Tina, at one point, said, when she was House Speaker here down in Salem, said that we couldn't talk bad about the Big Pharma lobbyists. She wanted to make it a crime or make it some sort of penalty if you talked bad about Big Pharma on the floor down in Salem. This is what Tina did. That just tells you the elite capture of Tina. So she's saying last night, youth are our future. God bless them. She didn't say God bless them, but she was like, I couldn't have done this without them. She's right. If it wasn't for those gaslit Gen Zers who went out into the colleges and went out to mobilize and register, she would have lost by 5 points. At least a couple points. And so literally we've got teens that are overdosing every single day all over the country. We've had multiple teens and people every day die here in Oregon from fentanyl overdose, which is coming directly through the southern border, through gangs, Latino, massive drug trafficking, massive profits, not to mention human trafficking, unaccompanied children, unaccompanied teens brought into have nothing, completely exploited, completely being savaged, not only from the coyotes, but once they get here into the country, they're going to be abused and exploited straight into the sex industry. So I found that really ironic that Tina has done so much damage. The Democrats of Oregon have done so much damage with lockdowns, pulling the kids out of schools, masking them up where, my daughter, not to make it personal, but my daughter said she felt like she was being suffocated. We all felt like we were being suffocated. The mask felt like we were being waterboarded. That's what these Democrats did to us. They treated us as prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. Now they're praising the youth that they damaged. That's sick. That's sociopathic. That's Tina Kotek. So I said we don't need to be self-defeatist. I started it off that way. This is, you can call it a red ripple. I still call it a red wave. I still call it a red tsunami, at least for Oregon. We've gotten rid of Speaker Pelosi, or we will. The election results are in. My New York elitist liberal, his title is "The election results are in." The election results are not in. The election results are not in. So you can't say this wasn't a red wave. You can't say this wasn't, because we haven't gotten all the tallies. The fact that we stopped this blue mirage, which we're in the thick of a blue mirage, like a blue cap on the dark red Mars. It's a mirage. There could be some water vapor there, but it's a mirage. The planet's red. It's not blue. So that's really important. We've got to come together to get rid of these Dominion voting machines. This is bipartisan across the board. You'll see the Democrats used it in 2016. They said it was all Dominion. Russians hacked the machines and flipped it. Blah, blah, blah. For years and years we've heard all this. Stacey Abrams still hasn't conceded from the last time she lost. And she just lost again. She just lost again. She was saying Dominion. She was against Dominion. For now she's gone quiet, which you might as well just be nodding your head saying it's okay. Governor Kemp spent $150 million after the allegations of Dominion abnormalities. Dominion, I don't want to call it hacking. I want to say it's abnormalities or inconsistencies. It's just like what we're seeing in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, in Georgia and Arizona right now. Right now. They're still counting these. And it may even go into a runoff in Georgia. Now, let's look for a second if Georgia, if they had ranked choice voting, so you have Walker, you got Warnock, the Warlock, and then you've got Oliver, which he's a brother from another mother. I'd like to know what lineage, because a lot of the Oliver, it all comes back to Blackfoot Native Americans somewhere, if you go back far enough, so I don't know. But true story, at least on my branch of the tree there. But Oliver technically is a communities of color. It's actually a name very, very common in black communities, and I've got that blood. But besides the point is the ranked choice voting. So if you got 3 of them going there, if you got Herschel Walker voters say we want Walker as number 1, and can you place Warnock as a number 2? So if Walker wasn't going to make it, could you vote for Warnock? I bet a whole bunch of Walker voters, if not most of them, would say, I can't vote for Warnock. They would put the Libertarian number 2 instead of Warnock number 2. Now, Warnock's voters, a whole bunch of Warnock's voters, if they're going to put him as number 1, rank him as 1, and Herschel Walker, could you rank Herschel Walker as number 2? I think you're going to have a lot higher percentage of his voters that could say, yeah, I could deal with Herschel Walker. He seemed like a pretty good guy. I liked his speeches. I like this. Besides the fact that Lindsey Graham came in and stumped for him and screwed up his campaign as he was trying to stump for him. Sit the fuck down, Lindsey Graham. You are a pariah. Nobody wants you. You are a liability, not an asset to anybody on any stage. Stay the fuck home, Lindsey Graham. You suck. You're a neocon warhawk and you suck. You come out and chime out, well, there certainly was no red wave. That's because of you, jackass. That's because of you trying to scare women and joining the Democrat gaslighting, saying Republicans want to restrict all avenues of termination of pregnancy, which is total bullshit. Nobody even really wants to do that except for a couple of jackasses. It's not going to happen from Congress. It was sent back to the states. So stop telling people that, you jackass. Right during an election, right towards the end, there's Lindsey Graham. And then he wants to say, well, it certainly isn't a red wave because I made sure of that. I jumped with the gaslight and made sure all the women knew they were never going to be able to terminate their babies. See how these fuckers work? Fuck Lindsey Graham. What a jerk. So, anyway, I've gone too far there. I've gone too long. There isn't really a whole lot to really recap on. I think that was a pretty thorough analysis. I still believe, behind me right here, the red tsunami, the red wave. I still believe what we saw is we had an earthquake and we had a red tsunami. We had a political tsunami in Portland. I've laid it out on multiple levels. Ranked choice voting. Did I finish that thought on that? Just so I'm clear on that, I believe that Herschel Walker would be the winner right now. We wouldn't have any delay. You wouldn't have a runoff. Because with instant runoff voting, you do it all in one election. You rank the candidates in one election. So if you have certain percentage, a higher percentage, a chunk of those Warnock voters voted for Walker as their number 2, that boosts Walker, and Walker is the winner. Instant runoff voting. That's how it happens. So, and then the opposite. If you would have a large portion of Herschel Walker's voters ranked Warnock as number 2 more than the other way around, then you would stick with that guy. The con artist, the slumlord, who has all these apartments that are not even up to code. They're squalor. He's never fixed them. He doesn't care about fixing them because he doesn't care about anybody. He's me, me, me. He's the essence of narcissism. And that's really the key crucial conclusion here. It's narcissism. You have narcissists with the Republicans. You've got narcissists that only care about themselves here in Oregon. They're not thinking about the collective whole. They're not thinking about the collective well-being and best interest of the country. They're not thinking about that. Whether they're being tainted, seduced, and medicated by globalists, fucking up their thinking and their independent thoughts and their critical thinking skills, I'm leaning towards that way. Whatever it is what it is. And this is the problem. This is the issue. And narcissism is no help at all when it comes to we the people and the power of the collective us. Warnock, even with, he says, I feel good. I feel pretty good. It was like, it was almost a James Brown one-liner, was it? I feel good. I feel good. It was like he was almost doing a James Brown thing. I. Me. Warnock, #1. I feel good. I. He's not putting the context. You listen to their language when they say that. The me, that's narcissism. Those I first, me first, is not America first. It's not Georgia first. It's not our state that they're in first. It's not Oregon first. These Democrats are being controlled by national narratives, national players who are being controlled by globalists. That is the tsunami that we stopped. Celebrate one thing if you're going to celebrate anything at all, people. Speaker Pelosi is done. Done. The gay lover dispute with the Hammers, or whatever happened, probably a drug drop. Whatever happened, she's going to say she's going to retire. That's fine. You call it whatever it wants. You should have been out of there. Excuse me. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi should have been out of there 2 years. You extended your welcome. Just like Ron Wyden's extended his welcome. Just like Merkley. Jeff Merkley, we're coming for you. You're up for election, buddy. Peaceful revolution against Jeff Merkley. If we can nearly oust Wyden, Merkley is fair game. Game on. 2 more years. Done. All right? Peace out. Stop telling people that where'd my black heart go? Here it is. It's the rainbow. That's the symbolism. It's the rainbow obsidian. Rainbow obsidian. You got the rainbow is going to reflect out of the black, which looks like black, is really the rainbow obsidian heart. That's really what it's all about. Stop telling people not to vote. We saw the power of it. It doesn't matter. If you don't want the candidates, you don't want to vote for the candidates, which you should be, you don't want to do that, you vote for the majors. Missouri legalized recreational cannabis. Congrats, Missouri. Heads up, Missouri. I've got some online, long-distance online friends, some YouTubers, besties as far as I'm concerned, but I haven't actually met them, in Missouri. Cannabis is a healing of the nations. Cannabis is a pain reliever. Cannabis does so many things that we haven't even explored and we haven't told the people. It's not about just puffing and getting into that zone, which that's a part of it. It's an organic, natural feel-good, but it's a pain reliever. It does so many critical things. We haven't even begun to study the antiseptic, the nature of antibacterial, and even the studies with cannabis blocking the corona and the flu virus. Right? So there's a whole lot to it. You got to vote as if our lives depended on it. Why? Because our lives depend on it.